Good morning, good day, everybody. Um, I just wanted to kind of give us a little recap as to where we stand and to thank those of you that did resubmitted papers on time, and those that have participated in the extra credit. We'll talk a little bit about that as well in a bit. But just to cover some of the logistics again, some of the administrative stuff. Again, when you're looking at these voluntary discussion threads, you don't have to participate. But if you do, remember, I award points at my discretion, which means I don't have to justify to you why I don't give you points. But I will. I'll explain it, but I don't have to. It's my discretion, or you might disagree with it. Tough. I'm sorry, okay? But I do warn you and tell you what I'm looking for. Early posting to allow cross conversation among yourselves, and not just attaboys or attagirls patting one another on the back. No. Someone posts and you would like to reply with critical thinking. Even if you agree with them, offer an alternative approach or thought and engage in that. Okay? We don't have enough civil debate in society because people are afraid to offend. You know, telling the cashier you don't want cheese on your sandwich is not offensive, right? Nor should be nor should it be if we offer an alternative approach. Aren't there more ways, to fly to Italy than just landing in Rome? Yeah, I can tell you the different ways. Don't be offended. So look to politely challenge one another, even if you agree. And if I see that, you'll get points. So early posting, cross discussions, and transparency and succinctness, right? So I want to avoid what I saw last semester when because of that, I redesigned the class a bit, was the use of AI even for discussion threads. It was pretty disgusting and disheartening. So again, you don't have to do them, but for those of you that kind of got the knack and the feel, you're racking up points, which is a good thing to do during a game, right? Especially early on. Um, Now, paper one is pretty much behind us, okay? Papers two and three, you are not going to get a chance to resubmit, okay? Paper one, I kicked back to each and every single one of you, with the exception of one student. And that student was given approximately a 10-day extension for extenuating circumstances. But all of you, other than this one person who received 10 days, um, got your papers returned and you had a chance to resubmit. Some of you did, some of you didn't. So papers two and three are not going to be that way. So expect the same degree of critique from me on papers two and three. Don't treat it like a diary. Treat it for what it's supposed to be. Paper two, again, is a diagnosis or reconnaissance of your work environment or home environment. It must address not only your ethical framework and core values, but those of the people you're studying or evaluating, your boss, your subordinates, your peers. And you'll want to identify their ethical framework and their core values using boss terminology and core values that are not vague but specific, such as honesty, transparency, integrity, etc. You could kind of consider them virtues or vices. Now, we haven't talked much about vices, but we all have them. These are maybe akin to our biases. When you analyze your work environment, analyze the bias in these folks that you're looking at. But remember, he who is without sin cast the first stone. You were supposed to identify your bias and challenge, I'm being polite in the singular, in paper one. Many of you had trouble doing that. Part of it because you took shortcuts and you talked about the industry biases, the industry challenges. Who cares? We all know what they are. Corruption begins within us. You don't like the White House? Look at your house, okay? Look at the next house. But before you look at those houses, look at your house. So, paper two. Paper three, we again will be looking at deliverables. What work product or products do you generate that you believe could become more ethical? How can you make them better? Either in their output or in the process that you're using to develop them. If it's an audit engagement, preparation of financials like the CAFR, whatever it might be. Now again, folks, you have my Canvas email account, not my Rutgers Scarlet account. The EthiQuest is a backup, but you have my Canvas account to reach out and ask questions, as well as my phone number. Okay, so papers 2 and 3, no resubmission, expect the same difficult grading style. I'm not worried about grammar and syntax. I mean, if I had to do that, I'd probably fail the paper myself, right? Coming from New Jersey, we don't speak English, we speak American, right? Or Jersey English. I'd probably fail on syntax and grammar. So, no resubmissions on 2 and 3. And you better do your best, okay? Please. On October 26th, I depart for Italy to visit family for 3 weeks. I will do my best to be online in Canvas, monitoring work and answering questions, okay? Now, Murphy's Law, things are going to go wrong. I won't be granted access because I might not be using a VPN. For security reasons, they might throw me out, thinking I'm a bad state actor, trying to hack into the Rutgers system. Or it could be, the computer, lack of internet service. So don't send me questions in Canvas and use it later as an excuse to say, well, the professor never got back to me. Oh, I didn't know. No, you're not playing that game while I'm away. You will have to find a way to communicate with me. But I'll make it a little easier, okay? Certainly, I'll be bringing a laptop, checking into Canvas. Now, if that fails, okay, I want you to look up my name in WhatsApp. Now, if you don't have WhatsApp, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm suggesting this as a backup, okay? I go by Domenico Savini in WhatsApp, same phone number that you're calling me here, and I'll at least be able to connect through WhatsApp. So again, during those 3 weeks, the only assignments that are going to be due will be your plant exercises. So I will be releasing modules 9 and 10 early. Please send them to me within Canvas. Do not send them, meaning don't send them from your work email, your Gmail, your Outlook. Don't send them from your Rutgers Scarlet account. Get into Canvas and send me your exercises in a readable PDF format. I have had some students who send me documents in some formats where I open it up either on the browser or with an app like a notepad or word processing app, and it's a blank page. We're not playing that game, please. Okay? Make sure it's readable in PDF. It's a shame I have to say this, but in every class there's at least 1 or 2 people that fail to follow the instructions and then later are concerned. So do that, okay? Um, and for your own sake, you're going to date stamp stuff automatically. It's going to be within the system. So if there's later a question about due date submission, we can verify it and you'll get credit, okay? So thank you for that. So remember, do not send to EthiQuest, or if you do, understand that you won't get a response. So you can copy your plan exercises to EthiQuest, but don't expect a response because I'm not going to be able to access EthiQuest email. It's just a goofy way that GoDaddy does their email system. Um, I'll do my best if I can with the laptop, but I don't want to guarantee it. That's why I'm saying you can use it as a backstop, okay? But please, not my Scarlet Rutgers account. I think enough said about that, right? Okay. So, again, I'm not trying to hold you folks up. I know you're all busy. You're trying to get your midterm exam. Well, hopefully you're listening to this after you've taken the midterm. Quite a few of you still need to take it today. Today's Wednesday, by the way, 10:19 in the morning for those of you that are interested when I'm doing the video. I want to talk a little bit about Module 7 now. I've released Module 7, and I'm entitling this in a way, Utilitarianism and Deontology in Public Service. Basically, utilitarianism, as we know, according to Boss, is the greatest good or the greatest happiness for society or the public or users, right? And that's an approach. Not a bad approach, it's an ethical framework. But we also have the Kantian deontological framework, which is follow the rules. So I kind of liken it to, your HR processes at work are very rules based, very procedural. That's why trying to fill a job, especially in government, it takes 6 months to a year. The paperwork, the forms, to comply with all the laws naturally. Very process intensive, you know. Um, and you can say that about us in accounting too. We're kind of process oriented because of the controls and requirements we have for reporting and transactions, or rather recording transactions, etc. So, Kantian theory or ethical frameworks focus on process. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at Chapter 7 or rather Module 7 and reading those papers or those pages. So, we're trying to get you to understand critical thinking. Okay, because we all operate under different frameworks. Some of you are more, deontologically based. Others are more concerned about the universality of our outcomes and the utilitarian approach that it provides to people. One of the things Boss does kind of emphasize is that in our everyday living, and you see this in plant too, we definitely need courage. You definitely need critical thinking, which today is absent in the media. It's absent with our political discourse. It was absent for a while when they were censoring scientists and doctors who were preaching against the COVID vaccine. Critical thinking went out the window. It was just do what we say, take the vax or lose your job, which is still surreal. It's like, really? Kind of crazy. But anyway, Boss does talk about critical thought, courage, and empathy. Now, why don't just, as I get to know some of you, either through your paper one, your discussion threads, your case study analysis on extra credits that I have assigned. For those of you that worked on the one case study 3, not getting back to those details, I've read some of the responses and I was kind of shocked that some of you show no empathy or compassion. some of you show almost a disdain. And it wasn't just for case number 3, even for the first 2 cases. I think one of you went on so far to say that I was an apologist for bad behavior, almost insinuating that. But it's not. You missed the whole point. These are good people, like I'm assuming you are, who made mistakes. Don't you understand mercy, compassion, empathy? Or are you so full of your own bias, maybe hurt, that manifests itself in almost a hatred or a disdain for others who are also hurting and made a mistake? That's what Boss is trying to get at with empathy, and Plant as well with compassion. Understand that there go you, but for the grace of God. I mean, are you so perfect in your life? And I also wonder if some of you who have already violated certain taboo restrictions maybe imposed by your parents, religion, society, maybe feel a suppressed guilt. And the way to overcome that guilt is to just double down and to say no, and dig in and dig in and dig in. What I did was right. I can't face the alternative view that what I did was wrong. I sense that in some of your papers. You're using defense mechanisms. Professor Savini, what does this mean? You know, we're accountants, we're finance people. Why don't you just stop the psycho babble mumbo jumbo? First of all, it's not psycho babble mumbo jumbo. It's a tongue twister, but it's not that. Understand, corruption begins with you. Other people who are inclined to be corrupt or are corrupt will see it in you before you've seen it in yourself. And that's the danger. And they'll manipulate you, especially if you're young. That's why I'm trying to help the younger folks kind of see this. I'm not picking on you. I'm trying to get you ready. For those of you that are older, you become immune. And you've admitted it. One of you did a wonderful job on your resubmission, basically saying, yeah, I've gotten kind of used to just going with the flow at work and not questioning and challenging things. We all do that. But there are times we have to kind of, it's like putting on the aftershave if you're a guy. It stings your face a bit and you're like, oh my God. You got to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute. So utilitarianism has its merits, as you understand what Mills talks about. And, for example, Mills will argue it's okay to lie to protect others, mostly, or even maybe yourself. Whereas Kant would say it's never good to lie. And the reason is Mills looks at the benefit from a utilitarian point of view, that it somehow benefits society to lie in that instance. Whereas Kant would say, that's nonsense. You get people used to lying, you're going to have like American politics and American media, right? It's like everyone's going to lie at that point. So the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, right? As we say, critical thinking. So understand that Boss will differentiate between the utilitarian act versus the rule-based approach of utilitarianism, okay? Now, when we get to Duska, we apply it to accounting, and here, who is the user? Who is the society? Who are those in society we're trying to benefit, right? And Duska warns about using utilitarianism as an excuse to mislead. Meaning this, when we set accounting standards at FASAB, we always talk about users, and they do this at FASB and GASB. if you ever go in the meetings or at least phoned in and listened. Um, you know, who are the users? You know, and you can manipulate that by cherry picking your users, like in a focus group or um, doing your due process, over reliance on a group think mentality, and by kind of skewing the results of the utilitarian benefit that would be derived, you then choose the accounting standard. Well, Duska's arguing against that. He's like, no, that's nonsense. So really, with due process, when we do set standards, we reach out as widely as we can. We cast that net as far as we can to try to get a diverse opinion um, as much as possible from all users and preparers, as well as auditors, academics, and others. So um, Duska warns against that kind of cherry picking to justify, the selection of an accounting standard or a financial statement presentation. Okay, um, so we also are concerned with cost versus benefit. Again, how do you measure that? Is very subjective. You know, preparers always want to make the argument we know what our costs are, but we don't get the benefits. Well, duh. The benefits are not designed for the preparer necessarily alone. They're designed for the users, the public, and especially in governmental accounting, for the taxpayer, the citizenry. So you prepare, incur the burden, and the benefit accrues to the public. But how do you quantify that? It's extremely difficult. Costs are easier to quantify. Timesheets, you can estimate hours spent, preparing financial statement. But how do you quantify the benefits to, the local resident or the citizen if you're serving in a water district, right, Rudy? How do you know your financials are benefiting, and if they do benefit, by how much, and is it worth your effort? So Duska kind of talks about all this, okay? And I ask that you consider things like global climate change or ESG reporting. Um, have we possibly gone a little too far in financial reporting? Are we like out of our swim lane? Are we using utilitarianism to guide our accounting requirements, our sustainability accounting requirements, if you will? Because of that, are we benefiting only a smaller segment of society? Because if we are only benefiting, let's say, the environmentalists, are the financial statements really general purpose at that time? Or are they designed for a particular audience within the public? These are the ethical questions Duska wants you to think about, okay? And I'm just trying to put more flesh to the bones on this. Boss, again, we'll talk about deontology, the categorical imperative that Kant would say no lie is good, because if you start excusing lies, everyone's going to start lying, okay? And then you got a breakdown of society and everything else. So remember, the Kantian approach is much different than the Mills approach, okay? So starkly different. When you read Duska, you can see Duska, you might want to call it a bias, is more inclined to the deontological approach, right? Which makes sense to a degree. Accountants are kind of rule based, so we kind of like that. So anyway, I want you also then to think about the Kantian approach in accounting and how prevalent it might be, and to what degree we might follow it. And I think it's a mix, of course. Like I would like to say, a lot of life it's gray. When I was younger, it was black or white, especially when I was an auditor. Life was easy. It's either right or it's wrong. the older you get, man, the more you're like, whoa, I thought I was kind of maybe a little too cocky back then. I kind of thought, you know, too sharply in a way. As you get older and you see things, you're like a little bit more gray. That's why on some of these case studies, I didn't award some of you extra credit, because you didn't show a maturity. You showed an emotional reaction. And like I said, some of it was just kind of, I put it in the mean bucket. But anyway, I do want to talk about one situation on it was in paper, I think it was the resubmitted paper version. This one classmate of yours brought up their ethical dilemma in a way of not disclosing certain lawsuits, or a lawsuit that was contingent, or it might have actually been filed. I don't remember the details right offhand. But in their response in the paper, and I noted this. Actually, it was the midterm. It was the midterm exam. I noted this to the student, to your colleague, that they were flirting with misleading. Now, I'm sure they're not going to, I would hope. But you know what? The way she described it, they were rationalizing not following the rules because they were looking at the outcome. This is what Module 7 and Duska is warning you about. Don't use the ends to justify the means. Meaning, well, if we disclose this contingent liability, we could be harming our users. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, no, we can't. No, we don't want to harm the users. How do you know you're going to harm the users? Who are you to decide? These are the difficult questions you have to ask. And I'll tell you, we say it in Jersey all the time. Figures don't lie, but liars figure. And you don't like that, I'm sure. Oh, I'm not a liar. No one's accusing you of lying. Please, hyperbole. Understand the little nuance about language, okay? Chill out. Oof. What we're saying is we're all prone to rationalization and deviating from a standard when it behooves us. The mature person, the emotionally mature person, the well-balanced person, the critical thinker, even if they do that, will at least admit it. Hopefully, they won't do it. Meaning, the rules some of you judged our Three Stooges by, I don't think you'd like it if we applied it to your children or to you. Some of what you wrote, again, might be a projection of who you are and what you're not dealing with. So, for those of you, think about this in Module 7. I think the readings are phenomenally enlightening and really good. So, if you have any questions, call me. I'll be here for another 11 days before I fly. You have that information. If you can't find me on WhatsApp, call me, let me know, and we can try to connect. If any of you have any other ideas or concerns, let me know. Ordinarily, if I were teaching a class live, I would select one of you to kind of like be my teacher's aide and kind of just watch over the class as I was away, but I don't feel I'm in a position to impose a burden like that on any of you, so I won't ask you to do that, okay? But ordinarily, that's what I would do. So my apologies in advance for going away during our semester, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be plugged in and attempting to monitor, okay? So again, got any questions, call me. It is Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. Get your midterms done. um, and stay well. And remember, be a critical thinker. One last point. If you've hung in video long enough, well, let me just say goodbye. Oh, wait. Before you go, I don't know if you ever watched Columbo. How is something, you know? If you've hung around long enough to listen to me drone and bore you, I have another extra credit assignment, but it's only worth up to 1 point. But please, I don't want to know your emotional response. I don't care. That's not what this course is about. It's about controlling those emotions and critically thinking and listening. There's a rapper who's extremely controversial. So I caution you up front. He's a rapper, so if you don't like rap music, skip this. You could just, stop the video now. He's controversial. He's white. He's a critical thinker. He's provocative. He was in prison. There are a lot of things that you might not like about him. When I first saw him, I was unsure myself. I select one video of his. He's got several, but again, some of you will find him offensive. Do not blame me if you go. I'm telling you now, some of you will find him offensive. When I initially listened, I was a little, whoa, this is out there. But remember, it's only when we step out of our comfort zone do we learn. It's only when we are in the company of people who don't think like us that we can grow. Are you mature enough and intellectually honest enough to listen and try to build a bridge where a bridge doesn't exist? Tom MacDonald, Brainwashed. Keep your response short, non-emotional, critical. Here's the question. What is his major theme? Do not critique the lyrics using specific examples because you might agree or disagree. I don't care about that. Really, I don't. Those fall in the realm of personal belief and opinion. I want to know what you critically think about the major theme of his video, the overarching impact and meaning of his lyrics, and whether you think it contributes to our understanding of what very well may be happening and what we can do to make it better. Okay? I'll give you until Friday. It's just a 4-minute video, maybe 5. And it's music, But again, some of you will find it offensive. I don't believe there's any vulgar language in it. But the topics, again, if you're going to be offended and if you're going to complain to me or you're going to call the accounting dean and try to get me fired, don't listen. And by the way, if you ever got me fired, it's okay. I'd find another job. This ain't my bread and butter, folks. Actually, bread with olive oil goes better and it's healthier. We call it in Italian pane unto. If you want the recipe, it's real simple. You take some good Italian bread or French baguette, pour a little bit of olive oil, grab some walnuts, so your favorite nut, but walnuts work real well. You've got yourself a wonderful little snack, okay? So with that being said, ci vediamo la prossima settimana quando ti faccio un altro video, così ci possiamo preparare per continuare la nostra escursione e viaggio per capirci. Ok? See ya.